Okay, today's topic is something that everyone has thought about, everyone still keeps thinking about. Why does your brain keep playing embarrassing memories at the worst possible times? Like at 3 a.m. at night. You're having a normal day, you brush your teeth, you're folding your laundry, you're trying to sleep, and then your brain suddenly says, "Remember that one thing you said 7 years ago?" And now you're standing there frozen, reliving a social crime nobody else remembers. Why? Why does your brain keep a museum of your most embarrassing moments? And why does it only open at 3 a.m.? Even worse, why does your brain sometimes throw in random disturbing thoughts you never asked for? Like it has a ruin button mode. The strange answer is this: your brain is not trying to torture you, it is trying to protect you. It is just doing it with emotional intelligence of a broken alarm clock. Okay, now let's start with embarrassment. Embarrassment feels silly from the outside. You said the wrong word, or you waved at someone who wasn't waving at you. You answered you too when the waiter said, "Enjoy your meal." Small thing, very tiny thing. Nobody called the police. The other person must not even remembered it. But inside your body, it can feel like your soul left through the nearest exit. Your face heats up, your chest tightens, your brain starts replaying the scene through 12 different camera angles. And you think, why do I still remember this? Because to your brain, embarrassment is not just embarrassment, it's social danger. Humans are social creatures. For most part of history, being accepted by the group mattered a lot. Being rejected, mocked, excluded, or misunderstood was not just emotionally painful, it could affect survival. So, your brain learned to treat social pain seriously. Not because every awkward moment is dangerous, but because your brain is a little dramatic. It does not say that was mildly uncomfortable, it says important data detected, safe forever. So, when you do something embarrassing, your brain may mark it as a lesson. Don't do it again, don't say that again, don't attempt public confidence without supervision. The problem is your brain does not store the lesson neatly. It stores the whole scene, the room, the voice, the look on someone's face, the exact feeling in your stomach, the sentence that you wanted to delete from human history. And then years later, when life is quiet, your brain brings it back like training review at the worst possible time, too. Because when your brain is busy, it has somewhere to go. But when you're lying in bed, scrolling through nothing and staring at the ceiling, the brain has space. And sometimes when the brain gets space, it starts digging through old emotional folders. Not the useful folder like, where did I put my keys? No. It opens things I should have never emotionally recovered from. Very helpful. Thank you, brain. Now, here's the important part. The memory is not replaying because it is important now, it is replaying because it was once important. Your brain is not a historian. It is not trying to be fair. It is not saying, let us review your life accurately. It is more like a security guard. It scans for anything that might have gone wrong, anything that might happen again, anything that might hurt. And embarrassment leaves a bright red sticker on the file. So the memory becomes easy to find. That is why you can forget an entire chapter you studied yesterday, but remember the exact tone of your voice when you accidentally called your teacher mom. Memory is rude like that. But it gets even weirder. Every time you replay a memory, you're not just watching it, you may be strengthening it. When you cringe and say, "Oh my god, why did I do that?" your brain hears, this memory matters, so it keeps it available. The next time it pops up, you react again. More shame, more attention, more emotional charge. And now the memory has a membership card. It can come back whenever it wants. This is called rumination. when you keep chewing on the same thought over and over, not solving it, not learning from it, just replaying it until your brain feels like a courtroom where you're both defendant and the judge. And somehow the verdict is always guilty of being awkward. But here is the good news. The reason embarrassing memories feel huge does not mean they are huge. It means your body reacted strongly. There is a difference. A memory can feel important without being important. It can feel dangerous without being dangerous. It can feel like everyone remembers when in reality, most people are busy remembering their own cringe museum. This is the part we forget. You think everyone is replaying your embarrassing moment. They're not. They're replaying theirs, just like us. Every person walking around has a private collection of moments they wish they could erase. Someone is still thinking about a weird handshake from 2018. Someone is haunted by an email they said regards twice. Someone still remembers laughing too loudly in a silent room. We are all walking around pretending to be normal while our brains occasionally throw rotten tomatoes at us from the past. And now, let's talk about intrusive thoughts. Because embarrassing memories are one thing, but intrusive thoughts can feel much scarier. An intrusive thought is an unwanted thought, image, or urge that suddenly appears in your mind. It can be disturbing, it can be weird. It can also be violent, sexual, shameful, offensive, or completely opposite to who you are. And because the thought is so upsetting, people often panic. They think, why did I think that? Does that mean something about me? What if I secretly want that? This is where we need to be very clear. A thought is not a confession. A thought is not a desire. A thought is not proof of our character. A thought is a mental event. Brain generates thoughts all day. Useful thoughts, pointless thoughts, beautiful thoughts, absurd thoughts, even horrifying thoughts. The brain is not a sacred library where every sentence belongs. It's more like a browser with too many open tabs, and one of them is playing audio from somewhere. You did not choose it, you do not agree with it, you're just noticing it. And the fact that an intrusive thought upsets you often means it clashes with your values. That is why it feels so horrible. Your brain throws up an image and you react. No, absolutely not. Why would I think that? And then the brain goes, interesting. Big emotional reaction. Let's check that again. Awful system. Terrible user interface. 0 stars for me. The trap is that trying to force the thought away can make it stickier. If I tell you, do not think about a red door, your brain immediately makes a red door. Not because you love red doors, because the brain has to check what it is not supposed to think about. So when you say, don't do this, don't think this, you're still holding the thought in attention. You're still feeding it importance. The thought becomes louder because you're wrestling it. Intrusive thoughts often work like mental pop-ups. The more you scream at the pop-up, the more the brain believes it is urgent. But if you label it calmly, that is an intrusive thought. This is not what I want. This is not an instruction. Then you stop turning it into a courtroom. You let it pass through. Not because it feels good, but because you refuse to treat every random thought like breaking news. This is not always easy. For some people, intrusive thoughts can become repetitive, distressing, and disruptive. They can be part of OCD, anxiety, depression, trauma, or other mental struggles. And if they are interfering with daily life, relationships, sleep, or safety, that is not a personal failure. That is a reason to get support. But occasional weird, unwanted thoughts, those are more common than people admit. People do not talk about them because they feel ashamed. So everyone thinks they are the only one. They are not. The brain is very good at creating thoughts. It is not good at quality control. Now here is where embarrassing memories and intrusive thoughts overlap. Both of them get stronger when brain mistakes discomfort for danger. Embarrassing memory that was socially painful. save it. Intrusive thoughts, that was disturbing, monitor it. Rumination, what if this means something? Replay it. And suddenly, your brain has built a whole emergency meeting around something that did not need a meeting. This is why the way we respond matters. Not because we can perfectly control thoughts, we cannot, but because we can change the relationship. When an embarrassing memory appears, instead of saying, I am stupid, try, that was embarrassing, not feral. Instead of, why am I like this, try, my brain saved this because it once felt socially important. Instead of saying, replaying the whole thing, ask, is there anything useful to learn from here? If yes, take the lesson. If no, close the file. Because sometimes the lesson is just, I was human in public, and unfortunately, that is legal. For intrusive thoughts, the shift is similar. Instead of, what does this say about me? Try, this is an unwanted thought. Instead of, I must prove I would never do this. Try, I do not need to debate every thought my brain produces. Instead of wrestling it for an hour, notice it, name it, return to what you were doing. Not dramatically, not perfectly, just gently. Like, okay, brain, weird submission, rejected. And then continue. Your brain may bring it back. That does not mean you failed. It means the brain is checking the old alarm again. Let it ring without building a house around the sound. Now, let's go back to cringe memories. There is another reason they appear randomly. Your brain is associative. That means one tiny cue can pull up a whole memory. A smell, a song, a phrase, a facial expression, a room, a mood. You may not even consciously notice the cue. Maybe someone says a word you once mispronounced. Maybe you enter a room that feels like an old classroom. Maybe you're tired, stressed, lonely, or about to sleep. And the brain goes, this emotional flavor reminds me of something. And then boom. You're back in 2019 saying something unfortunate with full surround sound. This is why memories feel random. They are not always random. Sometimes they are connected by invisible threads. You just do not see the thread. The brain does, it pulls. But here's the twist. The fact that you cringe now may actually mean you grew. If you look back at something and feel embarrassed, it means your standards changed. You know more now. You understand more now. You would not do it the same way now. That does not make the old version of you evil, it makes them earlier. That person was working with information, maturity, stress, fear, and social skills that they had at that time. And yes, maybe they were awkward, but being awkward is not a crime. It is a stage of being alive. Every confident person you know has embarrassing memories. They just do not introduce themselves with them. Imagine if people had subtitles floating above their head, still haunted by a bad presentation, accidentally liked an old photo. Once said love you to a customer service. The world would be much kinder and funnier. Mostly funnier because everyone is carrying something. The problem is shame isolates. It tells you you are the only one. But embarrassment is one of the most universal human experience. Everybody has something they wish they could edit. The difference is not who has cringe. The difference is who lets cringe become their identity. You are not the worst moment your brain replays. You are not the weird thought that scared you. You are not the sentence you said wrong. The room that went silent. The message you overthought. Or the memory that still makes your stomach flip. You are a person with a brain that is trying to predict danger using old footage. Sometimes useful, sometimes ridiculous. Often poorly timed. So, what do we do with all this? First, stop treating every embarrassing memory like a trial. You do not need to defend yourself against a 7-year-old awkward moment. Second, stop feeding the replay. The more you perform shame from memory, the more your brain thinks the memory is important. Third, change the ending. When the memory appears and the truth, nobody is thinking about this as much as I am. I survived. I learned. I am allowed to be a person. Fourth, for intrusive thoughts, remember, unwanted does not mean meaningful. Scary does not mean true. A thought passing through your mind does not mean it belongs to you. And fifth, if your thoughts are consistent, distressing, or taking over your life, talk to a professional. Not because you're broken, because you deserve help carrying something heavy. The brain is powerful, but it's not always kind. Sometimes it saves the wrong things. Sometimes it sounds alarms for old fires. Sometimes it pulls disturbing nonsense from nowhere and then asks you to explain yourself. But you do not have to believe every alarm. You do not have to attend every mental meeting. Sometimes the bravest thing you can say is, "Thank you, brain. I know you're trying, but we are not doing this right now." Because your brain is not your enemy. Maybe it's an overprotective security system with terrible timing. It kept the embarrassing memory because it wanted you to learn. It flagged the intrusive thought because it scared you. But you are allowed to update your system. You are allowed to tell your brain that was awkward, not unsafe. The thought was unwanted, not meaningful. The memory is old and I'm not there anymore. And maybe that is the real answer. Your brain randomly remembers embarrassing things because it is trying to protect you from social pain. Intrusive thoughts feel horrible because they clash with who you are, and your fear gives them volume. But neither one gets to define you. Not the cringe, not the thought, not the replay. You are not the memory your brain keeps open. You are the person who can finally close it. And the next time your brain whispers, remember that embarrassing thing, you can whisper back saying, "Yes, I have lived it. Remember?" And then go to sleep. But honestly, your brain has had enough screen time.